said 6.
Oh, wow. I just snarfed in there.
Well, some folks will come and go, Greg. Some will get on a little later, but yeah.
Makes sense.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Terry.
I have a reading from David R. Smock, Interfaith Dialogue and Peace Building. And I chose this because we had Ibu Patel presented at our annual conference, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And he's done a lot of work with interfaith movements for youth. And his comment was, strangely, when the kids were working interfaith, they learned a lot more about their own religion in a way that they never would have done if they didn't have to tell other people about what they're doing. Okay, so Greg Smock says, I strongly feel that it is only when there's a deep understanding of one's own religious beliefs and commitments that progress can be made in achieving true understanding and respect for the religious values and beliefs of others. Engaging in interfaith dialogue does not in any way mean undermining one's own faith or religious tradition. Indeed, interfaith dialogue is constructive only when people become firmly grounded in their own religious traditions, and through that process, gain a willingness to listen and respect the beliefs of other religions. Thank you. We have Michael Greenman and Greg Davis, who I guess you could say did a beta version of the proposed interfaith march that we're doing. They did it last year in Columbus, Ohio. And they have a lot of wisdom to share on how to put it together so that it's visible and functional and gets done in a timely way. You're welcome to go ahead.
Well, Terry, first of all, thank you so much for helping us to put this together. And I'm really grateful to the Unitarian Universalists for a Just Economic Community for all that you've done in helping to spread the word about this event. I'm really excited to have all of you with us. And I just personally want to really express my gratitude for you showing up. Just very briefly, I'm a middle school English teacher in Columbus, Ohio, and felt the need to do something and couldn't.
Hello? Are you there?
I decided I should mute people, but I didn't mean to mute Greg, and it didn't say Greg, so let me go through what I did wrong. Greg, can you hear? There you go.
Yeah, am I muted? There I am. Okay, there we go.
There's another way to get there.
But
fine. I really need to mute people because otherwise we get strange sounds coming through.
Sure.
No problem. For those who are on a phone, I'm not going to unmute, or I'm not going to mute you, but you'll need to do *6 if you decide you want to be muted or unmuted. For the rest of you, if you take the cursor in the upper right-hand corner of your photo box, you can unmute or mute as you please. But I'm going to go through and mute people so that we don't get this flocking. Okay, thank you.
Makes sense. And I'm happy to share more a little bit later. Michael, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? I'll tell you what, while Michael is getting mic'd up there, I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen here with you. Yeah, go ahead.
Am I on?
There you go.
Now, I think we were both hitting the mute.
Okay. Michael Greenman in Columbus, Ohio, with the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, Justice Action Ministry. Also, I call myself a congressional representative for the UUJC, having been involved with you guys more in the past than now. I don't know, 10, 12 years maybe. And also, I'm moderator of the Interfaith Association of Central Ohio, which is composed of 9 faiths, sort of the major religions of the world. Greg contacted us last year as ICO, which is what we call ourselves, and invited us to take part in the first Interfaith March for Peace and Justice last April, which we immediately jumped on and sponsored as an organization, and then became involved in its planning and carrying out. A lot of people from ICO were involved in it, and it became a very positive event. I think over 300, you can probably correct that, Greg. But we also, I was involved in creating a small choir, and we had a song that we did at the end of the session that is from the UU hymnal. Darn it, I don't have the number in front of me, but it's a beautiful song for this kind of thing. We can get that if anybody's interested. And then when a little bit later, after it was over, Greg said, you know, would anybody be interested in helping to do it nationally? And I thought, boy, what a natural. Given the theme of peace and justice and the problems we're having in this country right now, all over the place in all sorts of different subject areas, if we can do something that's national, and not only national, but pretty broadly representing people, it could make a real difference. It could be a powerful tool for positive change. So I said, we're with it. ICO is back on board on this, and we have a team working here in Columbus. And my task is building that team from our social justice committee, but more than that, working nationally with Greg, primarily through UUs, and we can talk about that as we go further. But I'm very excited that this is coming forward, that we've got good response and more responses coming in all the time. And I'll talk later. Thanks, Greg.
All right. Thank you again, Michael. And thanks again, everyone, for joining. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here just to review the agenda. As a teacher, I always feel like I need to have an agenda. So this is what we're looking at. This is our proposed agenda. And if you have any thoughts, please share them in chat. And speaking of chat, a couple of things. If you would, in chat, please type in your locations, where you are. It's very useful that this is being recorded, because then we can go back, and if we don't get to hear from you, we can at least see where you are and what your location is. Also, after your location, if you would mark an asterisk by your location if you can commit to organizing an event in your location. I do want to clarify what constitutes a sister march. Anything 6 people or over, in our minds, constitutes a sister march. One of the things that you might have heard of that happened last fall was a group that was called Act for America that claimed to be anti-Sharia law. They went ahead and they organized, or tried to organize, this day of action against Sharia law. And they had over 50 events in the country. And for that reason, one of my goals is to try to get 51 marches. And I don't care specifically if there is a very large group or if it's a small group that comes out with signs. Our target is 6+ people. So if you feel that you can get 6+ people out there with signs, we're happy to call you a sister march, even if it's just a demonstration and you don't march more than 10 feet and you're going back and forth in a picket style. That's okay with us. Because Tim, as you guys know, you know, and I'm not sure if Nick Armstrong is going to get on here with us or not, but I've heard about what they've done in Idaho, and whether that's 15 people doing it or whether it's 50 or 80 people doing it, that takes a lot of guts. And so in our minds, if it's over 6 people, please count it as a sister march. If you're sure you can do it, please mark an asterisk. If you're not sure, if you're just on because you saw this and you would like more information, and you need some more time, if you'll just mark a question mark by it, we'll make sure not to put that on our map. But we'd love to you know, follow up with you if it's something you're interested in, but you need more time. Also in chat, If you could go ahead and type in any initial questions that you might have, we'd love to field and answer any questions that you might have. I think Michael and I, for the time being, have introduced ourselves sufficiently. As long as you're okay with that, Michael, would just move right on ahead. Because what I would like to do is sort of work our way through this chunk right here in the next 20 or so minutes. And if you have pressing questions, please, I think there's a way of raising your hand in here. If you want to do that and just stop us so that we can address a burning question, happy to do that. But otherwise, I'd just like to go ahead and walk through what the message and tone of the event is, some practical considerations for getting started, and then, and actually this is sort of A and B, some information about this application for financial assistance, which we would really love to share with you guys. That sound good? Any pressing questions, like right away questions? We good to go? All right. Oh, I see some questions at the bottom there. And let me try to come back to those, and I will go through here at first with the message and tone. If you haven't seen the website, the message and tone of the event are pretty much burned into my brain. I'll see if I can get it as it's written. The purpose of the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice is to affirm religious liberty as guaranteed by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and to affirm equal justice for all people, regardless of their race, religion, or place of origin. We're trying to be as consistent as possible with that tone. We're aware that there are so many pressing needs right now that there is definitely going to be the pressure to adjust the tone and message. Well, not the tone, but the message of the event to be more accommodating to some other causes. I've had myself a couple of difficult conversations. Last year, we were close and working closely with a group of labor activists in Columbus. And, at one point I had to have that conversation. We absolutely respect and honor and agree with their platform, but we can't make their platform our platform. So we work with them as partners, and then hope for their support. With a national event, I personally feel that it's especially important to have some discipline around what the message of the event will be. Otherwise, I think that it could be, it could just go in a lot of different directions, which, by the way, was the reason for creating the assembly guidelines that I'll come back to. There are some organizers from Peace Catalyst with us tonight, which is an outstanding group, and one of their number, Rebecca Brown, who is the local organizer here in Ohio, actually was the originator, in my book, of the idea of making this a national event. And one of her first questions was, well, a peace march can look a lot of different ways, so how can we be sure that it looks as consistent as possible across the various locations? And so that's why we're trying to make sure that the message stays the same. In terms of the tone, this is designed to be a positive and a nonpartisan event. That's not to say that it won't have any political overtones. I think that it's impossible to conduct this without having any political overtones at all, or undertones or tones or whatever you want to say. But the idea is that we're not supporting candidates, that it's not partisan, and so that's the message and tone. Now, as far as the assembly guidelines, just really fast, I'm going to share with you the image off my screen here for the assembly guidelines. These are available on the website, and they're sort of our how-to guide to the best of our abilities. I am not an experienced organizer by any means. Michael Greenman has been my mentor and my go-to and all this stuff. So this was our best effort at explaining how we did it and what worked for us. And some of it's based on just observations of other things. I am not going to go through this at great length. I do want to emphasize this, that it's it's great to start small. If you are one person, or maybe you've got a partner, like I know Tim in Ventura, that's not a big group. You guys probably have a lot of people around you. But even if you do have a lot of people around you, in my experience, sometimes it's good to start with 3 people to 5 people, because then it's a little bit easier to negotiate a committee of 3 than a committee of 12 when there's multiple different opinions about directions and that sort of thing. So if you're starting bigger like that, that's fine, but it's also perfectly fine to start small. Let's see, knowing your elevator pitch, you can just scroll through these. You can find this online. There's a picture of us in Columbus right there. That was our front line right there. And just a terrific event that we had here. One thing in passing that I will mention, and I promise I'm going to move on, is petitioning attorneys general. We now have resources on our website, interfaithmarch.com, about how we petitioned the Attorney General of the state of Ohio to come out with a declaration or a commitment to dedicate his office to the aggressive prosecution of any crimes against people based on their race, religion, or place of origin. And we did get such a letter. It took some work. It took some groundwork and footwork or whatever going in there to his office a few times. We got some signatures. And even if the Attorney General of your state is not so receptive as ours, and we were lucky to have one that was more receptive, it's at least symbolically something that your group can sort of unite around. We have in here, there's Rebecca Brown right there. We have some signage that you can use. This was compliments of Michael Greenman, who I think, Michael, if I'm not wrong, collected these looking at a bunch of images from a bunch of different marches that he saw going on last spring.
UU marches.
Yes, absolutely. So again, this we hope will be a useful resource for you in your organizing. So that's purpose and overview. And then this thing right here, I really want to emphasize, and it's going to be the last thing that I emphasize right now. It's the application for financial assistance. Last summer, we applied for a grant for $9,000 from the First Community Foundation, which is the church that I go to, and it was approved. The idea for this grant was to help people who are interested in joining us but run into some financial roadblocks, because for us it costs roughly $1,500 to get everything off the ground. The biggest expense was for the hiring of off-duty police officers. Our number one priority is for the safety of those who are supporting us, and so we want to make sure that people have the resources to create a safe event. For those who are interested, we are going to do a 2-to-1 matching grant. This was just decided in a meeting on Sunday, and I'm happy to be able to tell you, if you raise up to $375 locally, we can match that with a grant of $750, which we hope can really facilitate the organization of your march. Right now, we have about $8,000 left out of the $9,000. We had to spend some for marketing. We also had some unanticipated partners through the United Religions Initiative that popped up in Uganda. And so we got some partners. Actually, the first 2 interfaith marches for peace and justice are going to take place in the western and northern districts of Uganda. And so we supported their efforts there. But we have $8,000 left, and we really want to encourage people to go ahead and fill in the application as soon as they can. The last 2 things I'll mention have to do with this grant. It looks like this. Safe Alliance of Interfaith Leaders is the organization that I'm with. Application goes to us. And the 2 things, if you can, please track down your costs. Please contact your local police. Ask them, if we're doing this event on April 29th, 2018, that's not going to change. You've got your time. That's not going to change. Can you find out how much does it cost to get local officers to protect your people? We had 4. We had 1 behind us, 2 on the side, and 1 out front. And then, so if you find out those expenses, hiring of off-duty officers, permitting, banners, whatever expenses you might have, and then try to get some local fundraising done. If you can demonstrate, we really would love, and actually for our grant and for approving our grant, we need some evidence that people aren't just saying, "Oh yeah, I raised $375." Some official documentation of that would be much appreciated, because then we can demonstrate that our partners have crossed their T's and dotted their I's. We'd be happy to send the money to you. That's what it's for. On May 1st, I want to have $0 left in that fund. And at this time, I have $8,000 left in that fund. So, so that is it from me. So let me see if I can figure out how to unshare my screen here. And just looking over. Okay. Terry?
Oh boy. Let's see. At the bottom, there's a green box that says share screen.
Oh, there's Nick Armstrong. How are you? Oh, I see. It's down here.
Yeah.
How you doing, Nick? Let's see.
Or Control S.
Oh, let me try Control S. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Bergen County, New Mexico. New Mexico is with us. Thank God, New Mexico. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. All right.
Greg, up at the top, I see next to my "You are viewing Greg Davis's screen" a little drop-down menu, view options. Down in the middle is exit full screen. So I don't know if I do it. No, that just.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna do the nuclear option, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and log myself out and come back. Do I need to do that?
No. Terry, can you grab it from him?
I don't know if I can do it. Stop the others. Yeah, it says I can do that. No, maybe not.
We tried to do a dry run and everything, guys.
You can try to share your screen, and it'll ask you if you want to take it away from Greg.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then you unshare.
Okay.
Okay. Are you no longer looking at my screen?
No, we're not looking at your screen, but I can't figure out how to get it. It isn't giving me. Let's see. Control Alt S. What does that do?
Should I start up while you're doing that? I don't need a screen.
Alt S.
Yeah, Michael, that's probably a good idea. Just keep it rolling.
Okay. Well, Michael Greenman here from Columbus, Ohio also. And I just wanted to start off giving sort of the UU perspective, because I presume most of you are UUs on the call, but maybe not all. We're pretty well known as activists. So I figured that, look, if we had a bunch of people at our church that jumped on it for last year, chances are probably pretty good that other UUs around the country will have the same kind of interest that we do. And so we started reaching out. I wrote an initial letter to our new president and to Carrie McDonald, the COO, who happens to be a former youth in our church right here in Columbus. And they referred this to Leslie. Am I saying that right? Yeah. My mind is going. The lady who coordinates the SANS and suggested that we might spread that around the SANS. And so she received that and sent it out to the state action networks. And then, given my relationship with UUJC over many years, I thought this would be an excellent organization to reach out to as well. So this is the first part of that outreach. And we've got, I think, an announcement on your Facebook page as well. And we'll certainly keep feeding UUJC resources with information as we go forward. We've also gone to the UU United Nations office. And I've got a problem on my computer right now, and I've got so many things open. I can't open up any new documents to show you, but that office is ready to support, and I've asked them if they can reach out to other faiths to tell us, to tell them about this so that we can come at it from the perspective of a number of different faiths. Then within our own ICO group, the Interfaith Association of Central Ohio, we have 9 faiths, as I mentioned, and they're the world's major faiths, Buddhist, Hindu, Jain, Sikh. I won't go through them all, but it covers a lot of ground. And we already have a number of Muslims who are involved, and Greg's going to be showing a little film, I hope, as we get back onto his screen in a while, that one of the son of one of my Muslim colleagues on my committee took of him, that really is a great promo for this April 2018 March. And my colleague Ali on my committee will be talking to Turkish Muslims around Ohio in the next few days. And so it's sort of spreading like wildfire. Not so many on the website yet, but from what I've seen of the chat tonight, we're going to see a few more pretty quickly. And I think they're coming out from all over. The important thing from this perspective is that since we have a number of different channels going out to different populations around the a particular person in a particular city may not need to assume that, well, boy, I've got to get this going. As our website gets more sophisticated, we'll be able to connect people who have already registered a city with people who are curious about what that registration is, and get in touch with them so that people can link on the ground in any particular geographical location without having to hunt around. But certainly as UUs and UUJEC members, I expect that if you're anything like the other UUJEC people I know, you probably have links with interfaith groups where you are, and you could well elicit the same kind of positive reaction that we have here and that has already happened in other cities. So we're just at the beginning, and it's just beginning to open up. Oh yeah, I should mention I sent a email this afternoon that Terry acknowledged to a number of the State Action Network leaders, and I'm hoping that they'll see the light and go on out and tell other people in that area. As we are here in Ohio, I don't know if I've mentioned to Greg that our local state SAN, the UU Justice Ohio, I've sent some material there already, and I'll be forwarding to them a suggested letter to go out from the office to all the congregational members of the State Action Network in Ohio. And of course, any of you can do the same thing. We haven't done this yet, but I've developed a bunch of sort of introductory letters specifically to UUs that I'll work out with Greg how we can best post them so they're retrievable. And on we go. So we're pretty excited about it, as I think you can hear from both of our voices. And we're delighted to have UUJEC helping with this and on board. And some of you have already clicked that you're going to do it in your city. And I think that's great. So I'll stay off for a while, and any questions then we'll pick up. I see a couple of questions on there now. And I don't know if we want to go on back to you, Greg, or where should we go?
One question that I saw had to do with the picket signs, I think.
Yes.
And that is a question. If you take a look at, and I'm not going to reopen the assembly guidelines right now, just because I don't want to have trouble getting back from them. But there is a list in there of picket signs that would be great for this. We had a great group of youth activists who made, I think, about 40 of those signs, and they were just ready to go. And so when people came, if they didn't have a sign, we could just hand them a sign like that, and they were ready to go. That was awesome. Another thing that we did, I think we talked about having each co-sponsoring group go ahead and commit. I think, Micah, it was $50 or was it? I think it was $50 to co-sponsor the event. It might have been 100. You might want to make that decision locally. And then we also asked for co-sponsoring organizations to provide volunteers who might come to the planning meetings and signs. And so we asked each group to provide about 5 signs for the event.
I think we should
so
say
that relates to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing about the signs, and this is, I think, very important to us. We're not looking to be controversial. We're not looking to be in anybody's face. The signs that we've got suggestions about, as well as the ones that anyone else makes up, we would encourage to be inclusive and bringing things together, not separating people. As you know, I'm sure, whenever we have an interfaith environment, people do have different beliefs, some different values perhaps, but the sure thing is that across the board, with very few exceptions, we do share most of the values that we're talking about in this meeting. And so posters that, somebody's beeping or something, posters that highlight the common values between us are really what we're looking for. Let me just mention something that I put on here a couple of minutes ago, because it just came up yesterday in a meeting I had of our committee looking at this. We're aware of the front and center in the world about women. It's not just in the state.
I've been on the plan for 15 years. All these people, it's the first time they ever did.
Somebody's talking, and okay. And my question to Greg, but I thought I'd throw it out to see if there's any response. We have these 3 things: no harassment, intimidation to the people because of their religion, race, or place of origin. Could we add gender? And I don't know that we need to add it necessarily to all the documentation, but have that understood perhaps, that I don't know of many people who will argue against encouraging people to be just with people. So, Greg, have you thought about that?
I'd certainly have, and that's a conversation that we've had on a bunch of levels. And it sort of goes back to what I talked about with our partners who supported labor initiatives in Columbus last year. I feel that if we open the door too much, that the event starts to lose its focus. And so my feeling is that as an organizer and as a person, that what I want to do is I want to partner with and support those initiatives without making this platform that platform, because I think once we do that, that we can potentially lose focus. The reason behind the addition of race, because the original event last year actually only included religion and place of origin, and as it turns out, it was literally the day before Charlottesville happened that we in our small committee had the conversation about including race, because we knew that once you add something, then where do you stop adding things? Because there are so many just and very pressing causes. We found that adding race to religion and place of origin made a lot of sense, because they are such overlapping categories that they're inextricably linked. And so I would suggest that we keep the 3 that we've identified, and try to partner with our our co-activists and our co-citizens and our co-human beings to support their initiatives without changing our initiative.
That makes sense.
I'm wondering if because I suspect there's 24 participants, which probably means that there is 150 years of organizing experience joining us on this call. And so I'm curious if people have thoughts about things that we haven't thought of, or things that that you would suggest, or things or partners that we might reach out to. I would love to sort of open it up. It's been Michael and I had talked about maybe roughly 30 minutes of us, and my dogs have joined us. If you hear some barking and whatever, but if you've got thoughts or ideas or suggestions about what can make this work and how we can effectively reach out to people, I would love to hear from you guys. And Kenny, it's nice to see you. I see you from Houston. It's good to see you. Are there thoughts or suggestions? And there is. Yeah, please.
Hi, this is Vicki. Am I talking?
Hi, yes, I hear you.
Yeah, okay. I'm from Wisconsin. So I'm just here trying to learn more and to take this back to my group to find out if we want to take this on. But one of the things I noticed when I was looking, when you were kind of browsing through your document, was the idea of connecting with the Attorney General.
Yes.
And I love that. And in our state, I am totally curious as to how that would play out, because we don't have a particularly sympathetic Attorney General.
Right.
But the press that we could get out of that, and the message we could put out trying to do that, could be pretty incredible. So while it's not so much organizing the particulars of the march, there's all the stuff leading up to the march that could be very powerful.
Absolutely.
So there's
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. And it's because I think it's not just the Attorney General; it's also the press. And we last year did not have very much success with our local press. We were lucky enough to have outstanding young woman named Durian Nadeem, who is really the face of the march. If you look on all the stuff, she's the Muslim girl with the hijab and the megaphone. She's incredible. And she's a high school senior, and she had really good contacts in the press. And so I put out press releases, but she got the press to turn up. So that was not a strength of our organizing at all last year. But Vicki, if you're able to contact, some members of the press who are interested in the story, I think it is a story that could play very well. And I could not imagine why an Attorney General would not be willing to make a statement to the effect that his or her office would dedicate the resources of their office to the prosecution of crimes against people based on their race, religion, or place of origin. I think one of the strengths of having a pretty narrow platform is that it's almost impossible to find a reason to say no. So if your Attorney General is like, no, we're not going to do this, then by all means, that's something that they should have to answer to. Because this is not a country that protects people on the basis of their religion, more or less. And actually, that's what originally got me fired up about this, was hearing a story about a Muslim woman and her daughter going through a parking lot and being harassed by some guy in a big truck, which to me is essentially the most cowardly thing I can imagine happening. And then he gets away with it and nothing happens. And so I would love to hear attorneys general in as many states as possible make that commitment. And even if it's just symbolic, I think it's important, because the last thing that any of us want to see is people who are emboldened to feel like, yes, this is a white Christian country and I'm going to get away with whatever, because nobody has the backs of people who are of different race or religion.
I'm looking at some of the questions, and maybe we could take a look at them while we're moving forward. How can we find out who else in our area is interested in doing the march?
Oh, yes.
That's, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to try to have a means where as soon as somebody says they're doing a march, it'll go up on the website, and anybody else wanting to do it in the same area we'll be able to get in touch with the first initiator of this and link up. That's one possibility. We'll find a way, and it'll be on the web page and on the Facebook page as to how you can do that. Sally Gellert from, I don't know where. Where is Sally? Where are you from?
Ames, Iowa, maybe?
Okay, great. Governor-elect.
That might be wrong, though.
Sally's from New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, Sally.
Running on a sanctuary state platform, I think that I would suggest that's a perfect tie-in. We're working on sanctuary activities, interfaith here in Columbus as well, and that certainly goes right along with harassment and intimidation based on the place of origin or religion, and very probably, possibly, the governor candidate might find it to his or her benefit to come in with the planners for a march in that area and add to the publicity, add to the visibility. The visibility, of course, is going to be growing as we get more cities, and we'll be doing press releases that'll go out on a broader and broader basis, I'm sure, as we get closer and more people are interested. And of course, the event itself, having people in 4 time zones starting to march simultaneously all across the country, is sort of a natural for press attention. So I think we'll get lots of coverage as it goes forward. But in every town where this happens, we can do our own publicity that will link up eventually to be national publicity. Let's see, there was another one. Statewide moral movement. Yeah, I see. The point that Vicki is making is that they have broadened it, but I appreciate Greg's comment that, and we've talked about this, so I threw the gender thing in as just something to raise that question. There'd be no problem with people talking that issue on the march, but so long as it's not confrontational, I guess is the best way to say that. We don't want to get people responding negatively to saying this is just a bunch of kooks, but rather making statements, showing signs that are, as Greg said, very few people will be able to counter them and object to the signs. That should be the basis, I think, for deciding what you do highlight in your march. Yeah, government has threatened to withhold state funds from cities that declare themselves sanctuaries. That's happening all over. State governors are coming out saying we'll fight them and take it to court. And I think that's going to be a strong factor to make that issue less likely to take place. It's public pressure and public reaction that will make it very difficult to punish people who are doing the right thing.
Vicki, I see your question on thoughts about how to engage people in Black communities. One thought there is that one of the major planks in the platform is that that we are committed to affirming equal justice to all, regardless of race, religion, or place of origin. So I think that's a natural fit there in terms of trying to engage people in the Black community. That is an effort that we're working on here locally in Columbus as well. I think because it's called an interfaith march, the partnerships with the Muslim community happened probably more quickly. I will say we also wound up with some strong partnerships in the Jewish community last year. There was an interesting sticking point that may be of interest to some, as I noticed that we had an increasing number of Muslim partners and not very many Jewish partners, although people of the Jewish faith were being targeted, synagogues were being and cemeteries were being desecrated. And I talked with a gentleman who is a local Jewish leader, and he wanted to be sure of the following. He said that they had participated in peace events in the past and that had been open mic affairs, and that what had happened is that as the event unfolded, the state of Israel became a big target. I watch the news too, and I can see reasons for this. As the gentleman suggested, though, his congregation did not feel that they were able to embrace the march unless it was not an open mic affair, and they basically wanted some assurance that the message would be something that they knew and were comfortable with. And after I assured him of that, then we did get, I think, 5 different congregations in Columbus that were partners. But that may be something that organizers run into in other places, or may not be. But I just thought I'd mention.
I just thought that our society is hosting the county MLK celebration on the 15th. And if I get a bunch of flyers together and say, hey, who's interested, maybe I'll get some response.
Yes. That makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm.
I have a question. This is Rachel. Michael, you mentioned something about drafting some introductory letters that people can use. Can you talk about that a little more, and how can we access them?
Sure. Well, I'll have to figure out if I can put anything I've created into the cloud and make a URL for it and post those on the UUJC Facebook page, or I'll discuss this with Greg. We can perhaps put some appropriate ones up on the March website as documents that can be downloaded, similar to the ones that are already there. That's something we can do in the next couple of days, I'm sure. So as a first step, I can send, for instance, to you a couple of the letters as examples and distribute them however is appropriate if you wish. That would be a starting point. But this is a part of going forward and building. We need to have resources. As an example, I think, Greg, I've mentioned with you that we need to have a flyer, and it could be the one you already have, that can be modified by the various people in different cities to have their own information on it. And that's something we'll work on and come up with. I think Greg's already mentioned that he's not an expert on some of these apps. I'm not either, but together we'll find the ways to get it done and improve the website, and also get the resources out that need to be out quickly with people who are planning. Right now, what you have that is excellent, as he's mentioned, is this planning guide and the flyer. There are also, by the way, 4 or 5 video clips that can be used, and there are URLs that people can send out on them. One about last year's, one that Greg just made a few days ago of himself advertising, announcing this new one. And there's some talks between people of different religions on this concept. So it's growing. I'd suggest people check the website periodically, go to the Facebook page, like it, and then look at the material that shows up there. And of course, any of you anywhere, as you move forward, add your own riches to the treasure trove of information that will begin to come out faster and faster as we grow. But I'll do the letters with you, Rachel, immediately, and we can go from there.
Okay, what I would like to do, if it's okay with you, the material that you have, including those introductory letters, I'd like to send a follow-up email to our subscribers so they have that much more information from you. Is that okay?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also just typing in, if I haven't made contact with you yet, I would love to get email from you. There are a number of people on here that I've had the chance to meet tonight, and I would just love to be able to follow up with you and offer any support that I can, and just be in touch. There we go. Thank you very much, and I can that'll help to keep things going. Also, if you have Michael and I were talking about people with more tech savvy than I have, who might have some solutions about how to manage the map or how to keep in touch. I do have a Mobilize page or group And unless there are any objections, I'll go ahead and send invitations to everybody who is on here tonight to join that mobilize group, because that's a pretty good way of sharing information as well.
Another one that I'm using more and more, of course, and I'm sure some of you are, because I know we did in GUJC, is Google Docs. It's not something that everybody is familiar with, but it's an excellent tool for posting documents that then can be edited by anybody who has access to it, and improve it as it goes along, and copy and paste and change them as we go along. That's something we can do easily, and you just need to have the URL for that particular folder to be able to get to it. I see a question from UUs for Social Justice. Hi there. Are we seeking endorsement by UUA and or UUSC? Well, I started out asking UUA when I wrote to our president and the COO if they would like to sort of get in front of it early on, and nothing happened for a while. And I think the letter from State Action Network, boy, why am I forgetting names? Is it Leslie?
Susan Leslie?
Susan Leslie, yes, of course it is. She said that UUA would not be sponsoring it, but they wanted to inform state action networks about it and let them do what they wanted to do, which is not as strong as I would like it to be, but on the positive side, they did send it out, and it is out there coming from UUA. I hope to get the same sort of thing from the United Nations office, and see where that can lead us to. UUSC, I haven't had direct contact with, just a matter of time. So if anybody on the call has good contacts with them, that would be great to reach out and see if they would like to get involved. It's certainly up their alley.
Yeah, I would suggest that we reach out, or somebody reach out to Meredith Larson, who is a new person at UUSC. She may be a good contact. She's located here in the DC area, a member of All Souls, but actually works off and on out of the Cambridge office.
Do you know her? Do you have contacts with her?
We've met, sure. Let me forward you some information about her, some background, and that might be a good idea.
Okay. And I'll just put my email on there too.
And are you in Arlington? And can I put you on the map?
Sure. There are a couple of us with UUSJ on the call tonight. Pablo and I. Pablo's executive director. I'm board chair. So we'll run up the flagpole and see who salutes with our executive committee. But there may be surrounding areas, for example, some of the bigger cities, Baltimore, Rockville, Maryland, and Annapolis, or Richmond, or others that may be interested in this as well. So we have some contacts with them. But the other thing I was going to say, Michael, is that the state action networks don't cover all states. So even though Susan says go that way, it's a great route. And of course, Terry Loma knows more about this than probably anybody else here, but find a way to reach out to those other states.
Well, let me just mention one other factor that I haven't mentioned because it's not firm up yet, but as many of you know, I'm been involved with the Move to Amend movement for ever since it started. And I'm the de facto leader of the Interfaith Caucus of Move to Amend. And we've been talking about putting this out through that network, which would, of course, also take it all around the country. It's not, Move to Amend is, of course, urging a constitutional amendment, and that's not what we're asking for this group, but there's no doubt that the theme of this march, which is against oppression and harassment and discrimination, is right at the heart of Move to Amend's movement education and the basic philosophy of anti-oppression, anti-racism. So I'm confident that we'll be announcing this through the Move to Amend network as well, and hopefully get more pickup from that area. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Pam from Philadelphia.
Hey, Pam.
Hi, I've been on for a while. I'm just listening. Couple things. One,
has anybody reached out to their anti-defamation leagues? Because I know they were talking about Attorney General. I know our Attorney General is having an event next week on communities responding against hate. So we're all, as a Peace Walk community for this march, all going to that together to pass out flyers and stuff like that as well. So you might want to reach out to your anti-defamation leagues too as a source.
Thank you, Pam. And following the chat as well, and Alex, I totally understand what you're saying. I was just typing a response. I'll just respond. Absolutely. I think the policies of the state of Israel right now are absolutely horrendous. At the same time, the focus of this event is for people of all religions here in the U.S. And so that's why I want to make sure that we're sort of parsing out issues, because certainly my Jewish friends aren't the ones responsible for the horrible policies of the state of Israel. And so we want to make sure that the message has to do with what's going on here and try to control it if that makes some sense. Also, the gentleman from the UU Social Justice Committee, I think that you're on here as UUs for Social Justice, and I still don't know your name. So I was wondering if either you could tell me or if
It's Bob.
Bob. Yeah.
Hi.
And Bob, what's your last name?
Deniston. Sorry, I had to step away. I had another phone call. Sorry,
no problem.
Question.
Thank you so much for your support. Right now, I'm seeing 8:55, and I think that and probably most of us had anticipated a 1 hour meeting, and I don't want to leave anything unsettled or big, huge questions outstanding. But please feel free to email me, or we'll get back in touch. One of the last things on the agenda was goal setting and that sort of thing. I'm not even sure if we've got time for that, but if people do have some goals, I think Michael, you had mentioned maybe the end of the month as a goal. The last thing that I want to say is please bother Quakers, because I'm a Quaker. I go to a Quaker meeting, and there's no reason why the Quakers shouldn't be more behind this. And I keep sending emails that they don't respond to because I think they don't like technology or something. But I have to say that you have been oh, Vicki, you're a Quaker as well. Okay, good. And Alex, you're a Quaker. Thank God. Okay, it's good to see some Quakers.
I'm here. Pam's here as a Quaker.
Oh, Pam, of course, is a Quaker in Philadelphia. So, I think one of my strategically next big targets is to try to get the American Friends Service Committee to start getting behind this and using their social media as well. You're everywhere. So at any rate, that's I think all for me.
Let me pick up what you just said about the
Mennonites. Yes.
The end of the month, Greg. What we were saying about that is that this will become more and more effective as more and more names appear on the map. So if you're thinking about becoming involved and doing something, as Greg said, whether it's 5 or 6 people or 3,000, get yourself onto the map so that the visibility begins to really fill up the map. And that will be an effective way of encouraging others to come on. And the date we'd suggested was, since this is in April or January, if we could have everybody on this call who is planning to get LinkedIn, make the commitment, or at least have yourselves posted on the map by the end of January, that would give us a big leap forward in terms of visibility and locations on the map for others in those areas to link into. Everybody on the map becomes a possible growth factor for others who might visit the site and see the map. So try to make your decision and come on board if you're going to by the end of the month. That would just be great. Oh, question of Terry. All the chat, does this get documented and made available, or does it disappear after the?
Well, it's supposed to be recorded, but I've not recorded before and accessed it. So we'll see if I was tech savvy enough to make it work.
Look in the box. There's a little thing that says more, and click on Save Chat.
Good. Thank you. Great.
I also want to suggest that the Muslims are a good group to approach because they're the ones who are probably organizing this for more than anybody. And the Jewish community would be the next step down. The Christians would be the ones that don't really need the protection, although they feel very persecuted. Maybe they would like to get up and do something.
You're absolutely right, Terry. Here in Columbus, it's the Muslims who have really been coming forward. And, you know, a lot of reasons for that, but this is a real change over the last year that I've seen of Muslim involvement. Having been in the Interfaith Association for some 10 years, it's a very noticeable change, and I have a feeling it's probably that way around the country. Muslims are really part of this whole thing. We're all in this together, and they are a big force for getting together, for collaboration amongst people who reach out.
Okay. Now,
this is Pam again in Philadelphia, and also I encourage people to reach out to the Sikh community because they've been really, really helpful in Philadelphia when we planned our walks, and they've been persecuted because people think they are Muslims, and that becomes even weirder, you know. So I would, you know, definitely reach out to them as well. They had a shooting in one of their gurdwaras, you know, in Wisconsin. So I really think you should reach out to them as well.
Well, and we have in Des Moines, Iowa, we have a young man who's 17 who's taken on interfaith work very, very strongly, and he's won a couple of awards. He's very verbal and just a real charming little guy that is out there to make sure everybody loves everybody. Well, it is 9 o'clock. Do we have anything more we need to do, or shall we call it quits so that people will want to come back someday?
That sounds like a good idea. Thank you so much.
We appreciate this opportunity to speak with you and to meet you all, and we're very encouraged by your enthusiasm and your views, as well as a lot of other things along the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.